Hello and welcome to special edition where we're discussing the latest updates on the Lakhimpur violence saga that is playing out now as we speak. Presently, an SIT, a six-member SIT, has been formed by the UP government. Yesterday, the UP government, of course, reached a compromise with the protesters and the kin of the deceased, including the journalist as well as the BJP workers who were lynched. That compromise has been reached. However, the political flames are still burning and are being lit constantly. It's a very volatile situation. One would expect a little more responsible behavior because there is a solution that has been reached between the government as well as those who have been impacted by that violence. So there isn't any room for those kind of protests to take place. However, because UP is heading into elections, we're seeing some pretty nasty politics at this present time. Of course, there are videos doing the rounds. There are different versions of the events that are being supported by different parties based on what side of the spectrum they are on. However, what is clear is that 8 people lost their lives and they must receive justice. For that purpose, like I mentioned, a SIT has been formed. Postmortems have been done. One of the victims' family has asked for a second postmortem. The news is reporting. I saw this on Times Now, just now. And basically, the issue is that if you recall, when the violence and the reports of the violence first came out, there was this talk that the farmers had been shot and it was allegedly the MOS home, Mr. Mishra, his son, who had done the shooting. However, as of now, based on the postmortem, there are no gunshot wounds. So, this is the strange situation that we find ourselves in, and this is invariably the situation that we find ourselves in whenever there is an incident of any sort which can be exploited for political gain. And hence, you're seeing that the flames are being fanned, although a compromise has been reached, an SIT has been formed, and the investigation is underway. So, what does this mean going forward for justice for the 8 people who lost their lives? In this, I include the protesting farmers, the BJP workers, as well as the journalist who was killed in the line of duty. Joining me to discuss this is Shantanu Gupta. He is Yogi Adityanath's biographer, as well as a keen observer of Uttar Pradesh politics. And he will give us an insight into what exactly is the mindset of the administration when it comes to pursuing a fair investigation regarding this tragic incident. And also joining us in a little while will be former UP DGP, Mr. Vikram Singh, who will take us through the steps of the investigation to try and understand what lies next and how far away are we from getting answers about what this violence was all about. As you know, there are competing narratives. There is a video war going on, and I really don't want to get into that because I think in all this politicking, in all this grandstanding, in all this commentary, the people who have died, and some of them in very brutal circumstances, are as usual being ignored, and that is hugely problematic. Unfortunately, because Uttar Pradesh is heading for election, it's going to happen over and over again. Shantanu, thanks for joining us. Uh,
Right.
you before we started, we were talking about the different commentary that has emerged.
Yeah.
One thing that I saw yesterday was Omar Abdullah tweeting and saying Jammu and was it something like UP is the next Jammu
In
and Kashmir.
next Jammu and Kashmir. Yeah.
And when I say this, I just want to inform our viewers that today a minority Hindu was killed in Jammu and Kashmir right now. It's breaking news on TV. So go ahead, Shantanu.
See, Advaita, I think how the investigation is going and how it should go, I'm sure the ex-DGP Vikram sir will comment better. I think I want to touch on the politics of it. I see Lakhimpur Kheri incident as a new prayog or a new experiment by the opposition, which started from the Shaheen Bagh times. Because And if I can take a Pakistan analogy, very different analogy, when Pakistan, Namaskar Vikramji,
Namaskar.
when Pakistan was not able to defeat India in military wars, what they
Hmm.
decide? Okay, let's infiltrate India, let's give 1,000 wounds to India through militancy, right? That's what I'm seeing in the politics of India. That Narendra Modi, Yogi, the formidable BJP, we can't defeat them politically, right? From 2014, 2019, and multiple state elections after that. And they will pass laws. Now they have a decent strength in Rajya Sabha. They have overt allies in Rajya Sabha, and they will pass bills. They will pass CAA, they will pass NRC, they will pass 370, they will pass farm reform bills. So we can't defeat them in parliament. We can't defeat them in election. Let's do a new experiments. Let's gather some 100, 200, 500, 5,000 people, block roads, and try to create a whole national, international juggernaut around it. We have seen Greta Thunberg's toolkit, and try to provoke the police to certain extent that they should fire on them. And once they fire,
Hmm.
then we will activate our New York Times and Greta Thunberg's and Washington Post,
Hmm.
everyone, and
Hmm.
try to put Modi government, Yogi government, whichever possible in dock, right? Because
Right.
why I'm saying this in Lakhimpur Kheri's incident, Lakhimpur Kheri is around 2.5 hours drive from Lucknow towards east, and we have not seen any farmer protest of any sort apart from 4 districts of Western UP till now. This
Hmm.
farmer protest, we just talked to be about, it's a protest of 20 crore farmers. It's not. It's 2.25 states. It's a Adati
Hmm.
Andolan in Punjab. It's a Jat Pride Andolan in Haryana, and it's a Andolan to save the politics of Rakesh Tikait in 4 districts of Western Uttar Pradesh. Not even all districts of Western Uttar Pradesh. And now, in all of a sudden, in Eastern UP, you see whatever we saw in last 2 days, right? And a lot of people must be surprised. How come so many Sikhs? If people are not aware, I think this is come from a couple of decades back when a couple of these Sikh groups got lands and they got settled in this area and Udham Singh Nagar district of Uttarakhand, which is also adjoining, almost
Hmm.
adjoining to where Lakhimpur Kheri is, right? And that's
Hmm.
why this Sikh angle is coming. That's why Punjab CM has to travel there, right? So this is a new
Right.
experiment which are trying, right?
So it's
Otherwise, yeah.
Shantanu, what you're saying is that the location has been chosen very strategically.
Exactly. And they just picked up some event. They just picked up some event. Because they have to show black flags to someone, right? Kechav Prasad
Right.
Maurya, the state home minister, they keep traveling. So they saw this location. Otherwise, in an area where you don't find a community like a Sikh, which can be then exploited nationally, internationally. And I think we all seen those Bhindarwale t-shirt. We all seen the Babbar Khalsa stickers among the protesters, right? So I think this is kind of emerging as a new experiment. Otherwise, a national conference, I don't know how many times Umar Abdullah might have traveled to any district of Uttar Pradesh, right?
Hmm.
Sharad Pawar is telling it's looking like a Jallianwala Bagh can't, right? Like everybody is trying to fire feelings,
Yeah.
right? Somehow, like I don't know how many times Sharad Pawar has even traveled to Uttar Pradesh, right? TMC is giving statements, random people, Chhattisgarh chief minister, Punjab chief minister, they're trying to travel to Uttar Pradesh, right? So I think that's why it's that's why I want to see. I'm seeing it as an experiment which opposition will try now. They tried some kind of political Mahagathbandhan on the stage of Karnataka they formed the Congress formed government there with JDU with JDS, and it failed in 2019 election. And now they're trying this new experiments from CA times that can we put a lot of people on road, get international funding, get international media, back it up, try to create a lot of hue and cry, and create a issue out of non-issue. I'm saying I see it that way, Advaita, as a larger issue.
Hmm. Hmm. No, it's quite clear. I mean, you have Priyanka Gandhi, who Vadra, who is camping out there, and the Congress is shooting her videos where she's doing jhadoos. And go ahead, Shantanu.
Yeah, and when you said Priyanka, and I also want to mention two
Shantanu, you were going to
interesting
say something.
tweets.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm speaking. I also want to mention two interesting tweets. I'll not name them, people will understand. One very famous Lutyens Delhi female journalist, she's saying Congress has taken an edge over Samajwadi Party. That's very interesting. that the journalist, the pro-Congress journalist from the lobby, it's seeing as a Congress victory over SP victory. Nobody's talking about this 8 or 9 people who got killed from whoever they were. They were BJP supporters or ABP journalists or farmer protesters. 9 people lost their life, and they have 9 families attached to them and multiple families attached to them. Right? So this journalist is saying, "Oh my God, Congress has taken an edge. What will SP do now?" For them, it's a context. It's a contest. People dying, 9 people dying. It's a political contest for them. That's very alarming thing. Second alarming thing, managing editor of a very famous channel in Film City, Noida, he's saying that, oh my God, this is a Belchi movement for for Priyanka Gandhi. What is a Belchi movement? When in 1977, Indira Gandhi rode on an elephant to reach Belchi, where some Dalit people die in a caste clash, right? And 2 years back, when Sonia Gandhi went to Sonbadr, I guess, the same person tweeted the same thing, that the Belchi movement arrived. So Belchi movement keep arriving every 6 months. Sonia Gandhi just has to come out of her bungalow, just sit in her SUV, take a flight to Lucknow, and the Belchi movement comes. So a lot of people is trying to see this is a kind of lot of failed politician, lot of aspiring politician to reinvent them. So somebody is saying Congress take an edge, and somebody is saying that it's a Belchi movement for Priyanka Gandhi. Nobody's talking about the farmer protest, the people died, and that's the trouble I think I'm having, Advaita. Right. Is Vikramji on the
Yes,
show? Right.
Vikramji is here. Vikramji
I'm
is here.
very much here.
Thank you for joining us, Vikramji.
Thank you.
And I want to ask you really, that right now the media is reporting that one of the postmortems of the farmers protesting, they want the family wants another postmortem, because initially the reports were that there had been shooting and these farmers were shot. Vikramji, just for our viewers, what are the next steps in this investigation? How are these investigations usually conducted?
The investigation is governed by the Criminal Procedure Code, and it is said that the first stage of investigation is the lodging of the first information report, which is first in the point of time, and that discloses the commission of a cognizable offense, YD Section 154 of the Criminal Procedure Code. And then there are stages which are governed by the Manual of Government Orders and the DGP's orders and the police regulations. And there are 4 stages. Mauka Moina, that is the visit to the scene of crime. Naksha Nazari is the site plan. Bayan Wadi is the statement of the complainant. Bayan, Chashmadid Gawahan, the eyewitnesses. Sabai Shahadat, that is those who have heard something, and also incorporating all the evidence and collecting them to be produced in the court of law. It is a very elaborate process, and the postmortem is conducted by a team of doctors under such sensitive cases. And in this case, I am told the postmortem report clearly says that the cause of death is due to anti-mortem injuries and there is no gunshot injury. And if there is a request or there is a demand for another postmortem, I would really not know why the doctors are not in the payroll of the police department. The doctors are independent of police working, and their postmortem reports are absolutely independent of any, at least police interference or intervention. In this case, I'm told that a videography has also been done, and I would compliment the chief medical officer and the district officers for getting that done, because I knew that in such sensitive cases, there are afterthoughts, there are complaints, both genuine and imaginary. And now that postmortems have been conducted and a videography has also been done, I think anybody who has any point to make that the gunshots were overlooked, and if there's a team of doctors, there is no way that the gunshot can be ignored. And in such sensitive cases, the doctors take pains to see and go through absolutely a microscope, not even a magnifying glass, every small contusion, abrasion, injury, and whatnot. And a gunshot is something like this, that if it is a solid bullet, it will pierce the body and go out. And if it is something like a shotgun, it will be skin deep. It can be from skin deep, it can be muscle deep, or it can go and be lodged inside the body. But there is no way that a professional doctor conducting the post-mortem will miss out this important injury on the body. And therefore, I would say that I would not be privy to why the reason. Are these demands being made just for the sake of making a demand, just to bring embarrassment? But whatever be it, I would rather, now that the incident is old, let us not desecrate the dead bodies and insult the dead bodies. They need a decent cremation. And if the bodies have not been cremated as yet, well, it's a different matter. If the body is buried, which I'm sure in this case it is not buried, the bodies are exhumed and subjected to a re-post-mortem. And if the bodies have been cremated, well, the ashes and the bones are subjected to another examination. But that is more by way of just, I believe, process, because nothing much can come out, because a second autopsy in case of bones and residual parts of the body would be indicate if a, the death was due to poisoning or any other such act of death. That would come out in the second autopsy when the body has been cremated and only the residual parts are available to the doctor conducting the autopsy.
And this, I wanted to actually even ask you about the SIT that has been formed. Uh, the SIT then investigates the proof that is submitted to it, right? What is the exact procedure with that?
It has now become to give a house handling named a special investigating team that incorporates the experts from many fields, like the forensics, the ballistics, the medico legal, ACE investigators. So instead of one investigator conducting the investigation, multiple tasking is done by various experts of various fields so that each is given. And so that it is not one after the other, things move on simultaneously in multiple directions. The postmortem is conducted, the medical legal part is done by one expert, the ballistics is done by, because there are gunshots, there has to be ballistics. Now there's question of autopsy, then it has to be medical legal, then it has to be forensics, it has to be motor vehicle expert, because it was said that the Thar vehicle was there.
Yes.
Then the SIT would incorporate and induct all the experts from various fields, and then the IT experts to get the location of the people who were privy to the incident, those who were accused, whether they were actually there or they were not there on the spot, those who are alleged that I was not there, I'm only being accused. Well, it will be known by the call details, the cell IDs, and other comparison of the call details, who was where, on the basis of the use of mobile phones and the GPS tracking. It can be known very soon, and the experts will be able to facilitate it. And that is why the SIT is formed, so that the best brains and the collective wisdom gives the optimum results in a focused and a professional investigation.
I have a question for both of you, for Shantanu as well as you. Um, there is this. Uh, Yesterday was this photo op, I guess, or statement that was made wherein the police were there, Tikait was there, and some other unidentified look like farmer leaders were there, and they were talking about ki sulah ho gayi. I mean, we've reached a compromise. uh, Mr. Singh, first to you and then to Shantanu. How difficult, you've been DGP of UP, how difficult is it for the police to negotiate these kind of agreements in such a volatile situation where politicians are hovering, literally hovering, opposition politicians, waiting to, swoop in and kind of make this a national issue, and like Shantanu said, possibly even an international issue. So, how difficult is it for the police?
Extremely difficult, like tightrope walking, extremely demanding psychologically, and your patience would run out. Hours and days of negotiations without proper food, rest, and sleep. I have negotiated with the same team for continuously for 40 hours, and the rest is history. And they would trust your nerves, and you trust your nerves. And my answer to you would be symbolically that somebody asked the prize winner in the world heavyweight boxing, how do you feel before winning? And I get a punch and I get knocked out. It gets so much that it is almost unbearable at a given point of time. I would not like to be the world champion. I would not like to win. I would just like to collapse and call it off. At that point of time, I think it is a battle of nerves between both the parties, and it is a negotiating skills. But yes, we have the advantage that we can ask other investigators and other people in our team to take over and be a part of the investigation, while the other person can just go and freshen himself up and then come back. But yes, it is extremely demanding. The demands of the political masters is so much, and often, more often than not, it tends to be a little unreasonable also, not a little, but substantially unreasonable also, because negotiations happens and it is at a price. It is at something that a give and take, and that give and take can often be very, very unreasonable. But yes, when you are fair-minded, when the other party knows that you will comply and you will see to it that whatever is agreed will be enforced, then I think there is no looking back. And I can say with great satisfaction that all the people with whom I've negotiated have a lot of respect for the negotiations that we had, because we have mutual respect. We agreed, and we agreed to disagree also. But when we agreed, rain, hail, or storm, we ensured faithful implementation and follow up.
Shantanu, you've been, of course, tracking this very closely. You have seen people, different politicians camping out there, commenting this dharna, that dharna, all of that is going on. What do you think this police actually done a commendable job of actually reaching a settlement? What do you think that's going to do for these politicians who seem to have staked quite a lot on this? I mean, you have even the CM of Chhattisgarh sitting in Lucknow airport. You have the
Yeah,
deputy CM of Punjab heading that way. You have
yeah,
Akhilesh Yadav. You have Priyanka Gandhi with Dipinder Hooda from Haryana.
yeah,
One wonders why there are no UP Congress leaders with her. But nonetheless, he's coming because obviously I think they want to kind of fuel that sentiment, because
yeah,
Haryana has been active in these protests.
yeah.
So there's strategy behind this, and they've circled that area, and then you have this compromise that happens.
Yeah. So, Advaita, I think since 2014, as I was commenting earlier, that we have seen a very different kind of politics when the whole opposition is not able to win elections and they're trying different tactics. But here we have to give hats off to the not only administrative skill, but the political skills of Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath by doing a compromise with one of the whole opposition element, which is not a political party of sorts, at least not a political party yet, which is Rakesh Tikait. uh, Basically he has diluted the stake of everyone else. So what will Samajwadi Party go there and do? Because the negotiation already happened. The very good compensation, a job, the magistrate inquiry, everything is ordered. So there is nothing that they can demand now. They can only say tweet, random, put jhadu, and, that's all. So basically, is also very smartly managed, and now there is no pretext that farmer can further protest. So administratively also it's locked now, and politically he also locked. So that's why Yogi Adityanath did this negotiation, because there's a catch here, because Yogi Adityanath otherwise does not want to give too much weightage to Rakesh Tikait also, because he
Yeah.
has not being a very credited farmer leader all along last 1 year. His statement on media and elsewhere are quite irresponsible. But again, you have to choose a lesser evil at times. So I think he has done, as I think ex-DGP was telling, you have to walk a tight rope, and he did very smartly. So by co-opting, if I can use the loose word, co-opting with Rakesh Tikait, representing farmer, basically he has shot down the stake of every political player who's trying to play the vulture politics in Lakhimpur Kheri. So yeah, that's also a master stroke, if I can call it.
Uh, you know, Vikramji, how in sync does the political administration as well as the police leadership in a state have to be to move so quickly and to be able to sort of resolve this issue, because this is frankly something that could have led to a lot more violence, which would have spread very quickly.
Advaita ji, they have to be not only on the same page, the same wavelength also. In fact, even before anything is issued or orders, seldom would orders be issued. In fact, there would be no orders. The police officer has to be some kind of a face reader. He would understand what the priorities are. And normally it is not rocket science. Maintain law and order, no collateral damage, ensure that the morale of the force is sky high, do not compromise the dignity of the government. And within these parameters, there has to be an understanding. And normally, somebody as mature as Yogi ji or any good administrator will say that you have a free hand, do whatever you want to. If you have anything that you want, you feel there's a gray area, feel free to speak to me one to one. This is, I'm sure, this is the guarantee that is given by the top administrator. But for this and these guarantees, I think this negotiation, as Shantanu ji mentioned, would not have been possible. It was the guarantee that was given, and in fact, the credibility of the government that saw and in fact removed the rug from underneath the feet of everybody who was trying to fish in troubled waters.
Vikramji, with an election coming up and such a high stakes election, Yogi Adityanath is going into this 2022 election as the CM face. In the last election, he was not the CM face at that point, so it's going to be quite a test for him. Um, do you think we can expect more incidents of this kind of violence coming up?
Advaita ji, let us not live in a fool's paradise. This election is not an ordinary election. This election will decide not only Uttar Pradesh, but it will be the roadmap for the nation. And if it's the roadmap for the nation, it will have a bearing on the international history as well. Therefore, let us imagine that it's going to be the election, and therefore, many people who have lost out in politics are looking for a lifeline. Those who are starved of political credibility are looking for manna from heavens. Those who are absolutely at the fag end of their political careers and are in the ICU would like some opportunity to be dragged out of the ICU. It is a do or die situation, and you can expect many, many more such ugly incidents and spats, and creating a dimension and creating a raw where there is none, creating a situation which could be totally avoided. And the police and the administration have a very tough job, but the resilience of the UP police and the administration is such that we know how to handle. And I know I have trained my officers very well. They know what toughness is. They have a no nonsense approach. An iron fist covered by a velvet glove, look like Vinoba Bhave, but be prepared like Adolf Hitler.
Shantanu, the stakes are very high. Would you agree with that? Would you say this is like a trailer to 2024 and it's going to settle a lot of political futures as well as finish some political careers? Is it that much of a high stakes game, or what is your take on this?
I think it is high stakes in multiple respects. First of all, because Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who is the main challenger for the opposition, he also comes from Uttar Pradesh politically, like he is a Lok Sabha MP from Banaras, and for sure the equation that will emerge in 2022 election will decide 2024. That's one. Number of seats the BJP will get, that's a huge proportion to the Rajya Sabha seats that will convert into. And the third thing, which is also very important, is Yogi Adityanath himself, because he's emerging as a national leader, right? And he wears bhagwa, which is not comfortable for many people. I think Yogi Adityanath, because I track him so closely, Yogi Adityanath must be the only chief minister after Narendra Modi, but when he was chief minister, which is covered by international media. Have you ever seen Raman Singh covered international media? Have you ever seen Gehlot covered international media?
Yeah.
And there are tons of articles in New York Times, there are tons of articles in Washington Post, BBC, Guardian, many, and local reporting, like not even Lakhimpur Kheri, that's a bigger case, local reporting happening in all of this. So everybody is watching. I just found that my book, The Monk Who Became Chief Minister, is available in 33 international libraries, in Harvard, in Stanford, in British Library, in Congress Library. So people are watching him. International scholarship is watching him. So that's also a very important element. That's why the states are big. And anyway, the size-wise, the number of seats-wise, assembly seats which translates to Rajya Sabha, and Yogi Adityanath himself, and how Narendra Modi is openly endorsing him. They tried to create this Yogi Modi Fisher a couple of months back, that didn't fly, right? And even today morning, Narendra Modi, with like no short of words, is praising Yogi Adityanath. And governance-wise, we have seen there are almost 44 schemes where UP is number one. Central schemes, UP is number one. UP is winning national awards, international awards for many of its governance policies. So governance-wise, they're not able to beat Yogi. Now they will try to say, UP is a large state. Some incident will happen. We have to see what will happen after that, how police administration is reacting after the incident, right? So they will try to create some confusion. Oh, they somehow find the minister angle and the minister's son, which is no one found the minister's son till now, that he basically mowed down the farmer protesters. So they will try to create some angle and try to see if they can live in media for at least 5 days, 7 days. So every week now, you will see one. Last week it was that Kanpur businessman who got killed in Gorakhpur somehow, right? And they will try to they try to call it a trader community. Yogis against the trader community, against the Baniya community. And luckily the wife herself came that we are happy how Yogi administration is taking it, and she in fact shooed away Samajwadi parties and Congress of the world out of our house, right? So that was that. But I'm sure this will happen every week. Incidents are happening, but they will say whenever they have some combination, some caste combination, some community, when they will create a clash between two, they will try to create it. So I think we should be ready for it, and I'm sure Yogi administration knows it much better than us, and they're geared. But again, in media, how the narrative is flowing, we should keep watching it very, very closely.
Yeah, and and also what's happening now, Vikramji, today policing, I imagine, is very different in many ways because everybody is an online sleuth, right? So there are multiple videos doing the rounds. There was an attempt by the opposition to project this as something where only the farmers were victims, and this was and the references to Jallianwala Bagh and all of that. Now you had that video emerge of that poor man who was a BJP worker who was killed. Subsequently, there's now this video that the other side has put up, so to speak, the other side. Although I feel like everyone's on one side when there've been deaths like this, avoidable deaths. But any case, just to be clearer on this, uh, so you have that going on. The videos have come out. Uh, some people have zoomed in on the video of that jeep which was which ran over the farmer who was walking, and they have zoomed in on the windscreen, and they've seen a smashed windscreen, and there is that has given rise to or given levity, some gravity to the accusations that there was stone pelting that was going on. So the car vehicle was essentially trying to get away, and
Get away.
in that getaway mode, this happened. Uh, I mean, this makes it really complicated for the police, right? Because everybody now has done their own bit of investigation, and they have a version of what happened.
You see, everybody seems to be Sherlock Holmes in the making, and everybody is giving his wisdom and injecting wisdom to society through the social media. Well, they are welcome, but social media is one thing, and budding Sherlock Holmes, they can do the private practice in the confines of their home. But this is something that is scientific. This is something that has come to be done very professionally. And how is it done? Reconstruction of the scene of crime. And reconstruction is done with real people, with eyewitnesses, people who they have heard on the basis of CDR matching, and then everybody is put. Like there's an encounter, like this is the situation. There are about 50 people the police round up. And they say, where were you? Now, please position yourself. If you are spinning a yarn, you will not even know where you were. Because हम पीपल के पेड़ के नीचे थे तो उनका दाई खड़े हो जाए जो जहां पे था खड़ा हो जाए जा करके अगर कभी गए if you have been there then you will able to stand if you ये फिर क्या जगह है दोस्तों you will not even know where the people tree was or where the neem tree was or where you were, and then ultimately when everybody takes up a position then say from which direction did the vehicle come, what was the speed of the vehicle, was it on the right side or the left side, what was the driver wearing, was it he was a safari suit or was he wearing a t-shirt or was it wearing a bush shirt, then ultimately the truth comes out in front of a skillful investigator. A skillful investigator can go wrong and she will get into what is the truth and what is falsehood. Then if necessary, he or she would be subjected to a lie detector test and a polygraph test also. Then the scientific evidence as also the circumstantial evidence are matched so that you get a very credible reconstruction of the scene of crime, and that is what is credible. My going into fairy tales and giving conjectures and spinning yarns on social media does not, to the contrary, it does tremendous disservice to the cause of reaching the truth. The whole social media is full of half-truths, blatant lies, fake news, and deep fake news. I, in fact, don't even look because my judgment would be clouded by this nonsensical humbug that is fed into all of us by the dozens and by hundreds. So we do ourselves a good service by ignoring the social media and the rumor mongering that happens on the social media. Yes, there has to be a scientific investigation, an expeditious investigation, an investigation that convinces the court of law and gives adequate proof that there is integrity in the investigation. And that is what really matters. And indeed, truth is very simple. They say in the police, there's a lingo, सच्चाई में बड़ी ताकत होती है हुजूर. Just these सच्चाई में बड़ी ताकत होती है. And it is very simple. 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. I don't have to place 2 plus 2 is equal to 78. Then the problem arises. But I have to prove 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. I can get to the truth very easily, very simply with the help of scientific aids, the eyewitnesses, and the scientific aids to investigation.
Shantanu, the political fallout, there has been this talk about, Brahmins being very unhappy. Mishra, I'm assuming, is a Brahmin. I think the next target, since the opposition seems to be kind of changing the goalpost with every development that takes place to keep this alive, could be, kind of focusing in, they've mentioned it, but focusing in on him resigning. And then, that being spun into something about, the Brahmin community in UP, etc., etc. Uh, what do you think is going to happen? And is that a game plan you think that's viable for the opposition?
So I think if they will follow the Brahman plan, which they were saying that Yogi Adityanath is against the Brahmins, so that their removing Ajay Mishra theory will not fit in. I think
Hmm.
here their catch is the somehow the not even the farmer protest, because the farmers are Sikhs and they can create a larger confusion, right? And they will say how the farmers are. So they will just create a that how farmers are brutalized. And but this was what farmers were looking all along, that they were looking for a police shot somehow, that they try on 26th January. They tried very hard. They tried
They,
everything. They used
hmm,
tractors as a weapon of mass destruction. But police's restraint was commendable. One shot by the police, and I think that's the shot they were looking for. Similar shot they were looking for Shaheen Bagh. A khaki worthy person pulling out a burqa clad woman in the truck, right? And Amit Shah never gave that shot to them, right? So I think currently, to my mind, I think the thing is over, and in a couple of days it will lie in social media. And what the truce that has been played with Rakesh Tikait, I think the thing is done, and I'm sure that as we've seen, even in the cases where BJP people are involved, right? Yogi Adityanath from himself asked for a CBI inquiry, because CBI inquiries are normally pushed by the opposition or pushed by the
yeah.
central government. It's a different party.
Hmm.
So to my mind, it's already the thing is already over, until unless we find some very startling facts that are coming out of the investigation.
And Vikramji, how long will this investigation take? When can we see some sort of conclusion?
I think UP Police is a very professional organization and they will do it very, very expeditiously, because any day delay would be counterproductive and will give the mischievous elements some cause of criticism, allegations, counter allegations. In any case, you would see, एज अकबर इलाहाबादी, लीडरों की धूम है, फॉलोअर कोई नहीं, सभी तो जनरल हैं, यहाँ आखिर सिपाही कौन है? They are a spare time activity, leveling allegation after allegation. And I commend the patience and the resilience of the UP police officers to take all this nonsense in the stride and not to react. Indeed, it is not for them to react and to react to every nonsensical allegation that comes their way. But I think it will not take the 90 days is the mandatory time span given by the Criminal Procedure Code, and you can ask for more. But I think in this case, it will be very expeditious. You can get the results maybe in the next 30 days. The investigation will be over with an element of finality. Advaita ji.
And that I think is extremely important, seeing how there is a total plan to kind of inflame these issues further. And I also want to say at this point that there has been no major communal riot in UP since Yogi Adityanath has taken over, and that in itself is, I think, quite a big achievement for any administration in Uttar Pradesh. So I think that's one thing I'd like to highlight. And I just want to thank both of you for joining me for this very quick chat. I was noticing that unfortunately the victims are forgotten. We there's a tendency nowadays to pick victims. So there are people who are only recognizing the farmers and have nothing, not even a word of condolence for the BJP workers who have been killed. And even the journalist, I mean, the Editors Guild of India has not, as far as I know, not yet issued
Yeah.
any statement, and he died in the line of duty, and nothing has come out to condemn his death and to ask for justice. So it's we live in very sad times because everything is now run on a narrative and a political agenda. But hopefully, and I hope the government and the police force will, of course, see all these victims equally and reach a conclusion which I guess provides some succor to the families of the deceased. But thank you so much for joining me this evening. Thank you.
Thank you,
Namaskar.
Advaita ji. Thank you, Vikram.